Arkansas Athletic Director Hunter Yurachek.
Don't worry about the college. Don't worry about the college thing. I don't need it quite that high, Bo. I know a little bit higher than you, but not that high. I understand. I understand. It's Guilford, by the way. G-U-I-L-F-O-R-D. Guilford. Know that. The Quakers, they used to be the Fighting Quakers, but Quakers are pacifists, so they changed that name. Well, it is indeed an honor to be here as your Director of Athletics and have the opportunity to speak to the Northwest Arkansas Touchdown Club. How many spouses do we have in here? Wives, that is. How many wives? Right here. So I was laying in bed last night mentioning I was speaking to you this morning, asked my wife if she had any great advice. This is the advice she gave me. She said, Hunter, don't try to be too charming. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to be witty or smart. Just be yourself. So I'm going to do my best to follow her advice, and we'll see how things go. But I was going to take you just a minute or two to tell you a little bit about myself. I think it's important that you understand who is leading the Department of Athletics here at the University of Arkansas. I'll tell you a little bit about the success that our student athletes are having in the classroom and on the field, and then tell you a little bit about what's going on in the future planning for our athletic program. So I'm a pretty simple person. You can put Hunter Yurachek in really three nutshells: my faith, my family, and college athletics. Those are my three passions in life in that order. I can't remember a time in the last 15 or 20 years that my morning hasn't started with a cup of coffee and a time in devotion and prayer. That's really kind of helped set the course for my day as a leader of young men and women, and as a leader of my household, and as a husband and a father. My second passion is my family. My wife, Jennifer, of 24 years, who I mentioned, gives me great advice. She just helped us move into our 8th home, and we're still married, and that's our 8th home in our 8th city. Okay, and we were apart for 9 months during this journey to Arkansas, so we're getting reacclimated to living together again. 9 months as a bachelor, and then you move back into a house where you have some rules and you're fighting over the remote and things of that nature. Becomes a challenge for both of us. I've got 3 boys, as Bo mentioned. All 3 are involved in sports. 2 had an opportunity to be student athletes, which has been unbelievably beneficial to me. Our oldest son, Ryan, played football at Marshall University as a tight end, and he just made the Raiders practice roster as a fullback. Our middle son, Jake, is a freshman on the football team at the University of Colorado, who played Colorado State last weekend, and Jake played scout team defense, so he told me all about what we're getting ready to face this weekend, because he watched a lot of film on them last week. And our youngest son, Brooks, who has the benefit of being the only child with his 2 parents that are really annoying to him now as a 14-year-old. He's over at Woodland Junior High and has just settled into this community very, very well. My third passion is college athletics. This is my 26th year in this business, and if someone told me tomorrow that I had to choose another profession, I can honestly say I have absolutely no idea what I would go do next. I have enjoyed 26 years of being on a college campus around competitive and driven student athletes and coaches and administrative staff members, and I can't imagine doing anything else. To put it in perspective, 2 years out of college, I worked at a bank. And that 12 months that I was at that bank, I probably had 10 to 12 sick days. I'm not sure if I was sick, I just didn't enjoy being at the bank. In 25 years that I've been in college athletics, I have had taken one sick day. Doesn't mean that I haven't been sick. The Lord has blessed me with great health, but on those days that I didn't feel great or was a little under the weather, I still love coming on campus and being around our student athletes and coaches every day. I've had the opportunity during my first 9 months, as Bo said, to travel around this state and meet many Arkansas fans and various constituents, and 2 things became very evident early on. One, there is an unbelievable passion for the Arkansas Razorbacks across this state. It does not matter if you are in West Memphis, El Dorado, or points in between, Little Rock, etc. People have a passion for the Razorbacks. The second is that Razorback fans are somewhat opinionated. They have opinions on whether we should be drinking Coke or Pepsi. They have opinions on whether the slobbering hog should be at midcourt at Bud Walton Arena again. They have opinions on should we wear white uniforms with white helmets, or Cardinal uniforms, or even that dreaded anthracite uniform that you sometimes see us wear. Did I mention anthracite uniforms? But I truly believe that the Department of Athletics is indeed the front porch, not only of the University of Arkansas, but in some instances the front porch of the state of Arkansas. And that front porch is not the most important room in the house, but it should definitively provide a great impression of that house. And it should be a rallying point for those in the community. And a little bit of a history lesson, I'm not from Arkansas, but the front porch here at the University of Arkansas has provided us something to be really, really proud of over the course of time. Starting with 46 team national championships, 218 conference championships, including 127 since the Razorbacks joined the Southeastern Conference. We've had 41 bowl game appearances, 7 Final Four appearances, 6 by our men and 1 by our women. We've been to the College World Series 9 times following this year's national runner-up finish, and we've had 65 Olympic athletes that have worn Razorback uniforms. That's something that we can all be prideful about our front porch, correct? You can give it a hand right there. I mentioned that I'm a fairly simple person, and one of the first things I wanted to do when I arrived here was make sure that our Department of Athletics, that we were all aligned together and that we had one mission and we had one vision and we had one thing that we were focused on as a Department of Athletics. And our vision is very simple. It's to be the best. If you've heard Coach Morris talk, you've heard him say best is our standard, and that's the same thing, to be the best. It may sound very cliche-ish, and you may say, well, how do you judge if you're the best? I heard a great definition of what the best means recently, and it's to put the talents and resources that you have been provided to accomplish what they have been provided for. And as a Department of Athletics, we've all been given great talents and great resources to accomplish really 2 main goals. That's to educate and graduate student athletes, and that's to compete for and win conference and national championships. And so if we're going to be the best and we're going to evaluate ourselves on being the best, is we're going to strive to graduate 100% of our student athletes, and we're going to strive to win and compete for and win conference and national championships in 19 of our sports. And when we accomplish that, it's going to be pretty easy to say that we're the best, okay? So that's what our vision is in the future. We want to be the best. Our mission is quite simple. We're building Razorbacks and champions for life. Well, how do we do that? It's my job as a Director of Athletics to work with our head coaches, our assistant coaches, our administrative team and support staff to create opportunities for each and every one of our 465 student athletes to have success academically, athletically, and in their personal development. What does that mean? Academic success is what? You graduate. Athletic success, you win championships. And your personal development is we're going to equip you with the skill set. We're going to teach you nutrition. We're going to teach you how to balance a checkbook, how to write a resume, how to interview for a job, how to acquire a job. And hopefully if you have success in those 3 areas as a student athlete, you're going to leave the University of Arkansas prepared to be a champion and a Razorback in whatever you decide to do in life. And finally, our focus is on the success of our student athletes. I tell our coaches and our staff each and every day, when our student athletes have success, we will have success as coaches, as administrators, as a Department of Athletics, and as a university and as a state. It's not our success that comes first, it's the success of our student athletes. You all have an annual report on your table. Don't open it up, just make sure you take it with you because Kevin Traynor does not want to take any of those back home with him. Is that correct, Kevin? Correct. Okay. But I want to summarize some of the success of our student athletes during the past year. We had 131 of our 465 student athletes that earned a degree from the University of Arkansas. That's 90% of the 145 student athletes who exhausted their athletic eligibility. That 10%, if we're going to be the best, we got to close that margin, right? But that's a pretty phenomenal number that 90% of the student athletes who exhausted their athletic eligibility during the past year earned a degree from the University of Arkansas. Our student athletes, 465 of them, had a cumulative grade point average of 3.25. 465 athletes pooled together a cumulative grade point average of 3.25. I don't know what everybody's grade point average around here was. Mine didn't come close to that, I'll be honest. And we had 72 student athletes who had a perfect 4.0 and over 300 that had a 3.0 or better. Think about that, out of 465 student athletes. Athletic success. We had 2 teams that finished as a national runner-up, our women's indoor track and field team and our baseball program. We had 4 individual national champions, 3 in track and field, 1 in women's diving. We had 1 National Player of the Year in Maria Fassi in women's golf. We won 4 Southeastern Conference championships. 14 of our 19 sports programs participated in NCAA postseason competition. We finished 16th in the Learfield Directors Cup, which measures the over 300 Division I institutions on athletic success across all of their sports. We were the #1 school that had 19 sports or fewer in those standings, 16th overall in the country out of more than 300 schools. We had 4 programs that finished their respective sports seasons ranked in the top 10 and 10 who are ranked in the top 25 at some point in time during their season. That's our athletic success. And then as part of our student athlete development, we ask our student athletes to give back to this community that we ask so much from. During the course of the past year, in addition to their academic success and their athletic success, our student athletes gave back over 5,000 hours of community service to over 100 organizations in this community. Can you think about that? We talk about the time they spend in the classroom, in their respective playing venues, training, and they also find time to go back and give 5,000 hours of community service to our community. Let's give a big hand to our student athletes. So you see that when I say our focus is the success of our student athletes. When our student athletes have success like I just outlined, we have success as a department and as a university and as a state that supports those student athletes. Looking ahead, a couple things as I traveled around this state and I talked to our coaches and our staff and university administrators. One of the things I found out is there may not have been, while everybody was Razorback fans, there wasn't a unity among Razorback fans across this state as I traveled from one part to the other. How many of you guys participated in the One Hog Call? It had to be more than you guys. We must have done a bad job publicizing it to you guys. So the One Hog Call was last Friday at 1 o'clock. It started as an initiative, as their One Razorback initiative to unite people across this state that were Razorback fans. And you're going to see more and more about this One Razorback communication platform rolling out. But the One Hog Call was the official launch of that. We had events here in Fayetteville in the town square that I hosted. Anybody like my hog jacket? Did you see that? Yep. Sorry I didn't wear that today. It's at the dry cleaners. We had one down at War Memorial Stadium. Coach Van Horn and Coach Anderson and Coach Neighbors went down there. The Chancellor hosted one here. We had over 50 schools across the state of Arkansas that participated. We had people in over 40 states that participated at 1 o'clock on Friday and calling the hogs, in over 8 foreign countries now we've tracked. Think of that. It started as an initiative to unite this state, and it spread to over 40 states and 8 foreign countries. Think of the power of the tradition we have, that One Hog Call. Maybe the most powerful tradition in all of college athletics, calling the hogs. I can't think of another school that could have that tradition and call people together at one point in time to do that. And that's part of our One Razorback initiative moving forward. The second piece is that I tackled was a hot button issue when I first arrived was, should we play football games in Little Rock? Not a vote, not a vote. The decision's been made. But as I traveled the state, one of the things that I found out quickly from talking to constituents is that Arkansas Razorback football games in Little Rock was part of the fabric of this state. 70+ years now the games have been played there. If you go and look at the record books, more games, Razorback football games, have been played in Little Rock than have been played in Fayetteville. I'm smart enough to know that I was not going to be the athletic director in his first year that was going to break that tradition. But I thought it was the right thing to do as well. I understand all the financial reasons not to play games in Little Rock, but this was not a decision based on dollars and cents, as I have said many times. This is a decision that was based on what's best for the state of Arkansas. And if you really put it in perspective, here in Fayetteville, 39 games over the next 6 years will be played in Fayetteville and 3 in Little Rock. 39 in Fayetteville, 3 in Little Rock. When you break it down into some very simplistic terms, it doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal. And those 3 games are going to be played on Thanksgiving weekend. It's not a recruiting disadvantage for Coach Morris and his staff because we don't have recruits on Thanksgiving weekend. And that was that was a purpose behind that, as well as those Thanksgiving games, day games, weekend games in Little Rock have been very successful in the past. Another thing as I went around the state was we didn't play other state schools. I talked to our coaches about that, and many of our coaches had an appetite to play other state schools. And as I had meetings with Chancellor Steinmetz to discuss what those opportunities would look like, what we decided to tackle was let's let these, if we're going to do this, let's make sure they benefit schools within the system, the University of Arkansas system. And so that's where we're headed now. That we just announced last week, if you did not see that our baseball program in 2019 is going to kind of crack that egg open for us. And they're going to play a home game versus University of Arkansas at Little Rock and University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And then we're going to allow our other sports to start exploring opportunities with those 2 institutions, our sister institutions, for potential games in other sports. And really, there's all of our other sports except gymnastics have competitive programs that are similar to Arkansas Little Rock and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Again, I didn't get to ask for a vote on that either. But you can give me your opinion at some point in time, as many have. A few things going on with facilities for us. The baseball clubhouse. Baum Stadium is an unbelievable venue to watch a baseball game. We packed over 13,000 fans in there several times during the course of the past year, but the amenities for our baseball program have fallen behind what they need to be to continue to compete in the Southeastern Conference and on a national level. So we're going to embark upon a journey where we're going to build a 40,000 square foot baseball clubhouse that will frame in the right field portion of Baum Stadium, similar to what we have the hog pen doing in left field. The lower level of that facility will have batting tunnels, pitching areas. The second floor will be a student athlete only area that will have a new locker room, a new team room and lounge, a team meeting area, an athletic training room, and a strength and conditioning center. The third floor will be coaches' offices and additional meeting rooms. And then we're working on a concept where we have loge boxes that overlook the bullpen. The loge boxes in the north end zone facility were one of the hottest selling items in that complex. And these would be some multiple of 4, 8, and 12 person loge boxes that would be equipped with a sink and a refrigerator and a grill, and really give you a neat vantage point there at Baum Stadium to watch baseball games moving forward. 2 other facilities that pertain to our track and field program. Right now our track and field program, our women's program dresses in a locker room that has roughly 35 lockers. That would be great if we had 35 student athletes, but we have approximately 60 female student athletes on our track and field team. The ratio is not quite as dramatic on the men's side because we don't have as many student athletes, but we have a desperate need to build a track and field operations complex at our outdoor track and field venue. We will embark upon that, roughly a 25,000 square foot building that will be constructed. The first floor of that will have new locker rooms for both men and women, a shared team lounge for men and women's program, as well as a strength and conditioning center and an athletic training room for those programs as well. We're also going to spend roughly about $16 or $17 million to do a major renovation to the Randall Tyson Indoor Track Center. We're hosting the 2021 Indoor National Championships, and so in preparation for that event, we're going to do a significant renovation to that venue. And then we just acquired a contract with an architect, AECom out of Kansas City, to conduct a feasibility study for us on what we should do with Bud Walton Arena, meaning what should we do. We'd like to add some additional premium areas, club seats, loge box areas, refresh the suites, and that will probably take the capacity of Bud Walton Arena down. At the same time, they'll be doing a feasibility study for us on what we should do with Barnhill Arena. Is that an arena that has passed its time and one that we can't renovate cost efficiently, or is that one that we can renovate cost efficiently in lieu of building a new building for our volleyball and gymnastics programs? All told, that's about, if you take the track and field projects and the baseball projects, about $50 million of projects that we're going to undertake here in the next 2 years. That's on the heels of, as Bo mentioned, the grand opening of the $160 million renovation that we just completed to Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. How many had an opportunity to visit that facility this weekend? By a show of hands, how many enjoyed that facility this weekend? By a show of applause, how many enjoyed that facility this weekend? Phenomenal facility, $160 million. And really what makes this state special is we built that facility without the benefit of any university dollars, without any student fees, on the backs of the people of this great state. We had a goal to raise $40 million. We exceeded that goal by $4.3 million. And if Scott Verity and our Razorback Athletic Foundation staff, you guys stand up and let everybody give you a round of applause for that. Dean, I noticed you stood up. Could you stand up again? Stand up again. Stand up. Dean, I apologize that I missed it yesterday. Hopefully you got my card. But a happy 70-something birthday. So I get a lot of questions about what I think about Chad Morris. I love Chad Morris. I've been at 8 schools. I've been around what I thought were some really good football coaches, starting with Jim Caldwell. When I started my career at Wake Forest 26 years ago, Jim Caldwell made it to be the coach of the Detroit Lions. To Tom Herman, who's now at the University of Texas. To Joe Moorhead, who's now at Mississippi State. I don't think I have been around a better football coach. Let me qualify that. I know I have not been around a better football coach than Chad Morris. The culture that he's creating within that locker room, the culture that he's creating within our department, the culture that he is creating with our fan base and across this state. I promise you that we are going to have success as a football program with Chad Morris as our leader. As he talked about on Saturday, regardless of what you thought of our team's performance, by the way, we won the game by 25 or 30 points, we're just building a foundation right now. We're just building a foundation of something that's going to be really, really special. I was at the national championship game this past year, and Georgia was playing Alabama. I sent Coach a text, and the text simply said Houston 2022. That's where the national championship game is in 2022. That's our goal, and that's our vision, and that's what we're building. And he's going to get everything he needs from around our department in the way of support, and I know he's going to get everything he needs from this fan base, this passionate fan base across this state to make sure that he has success. And I promise you, Coach Chad Morris is going to have success as the leader of our football program, because our student athletes are going to have success with Chad Morris as the leader of our football program. If you've been paying attention to recruiting, you've seen what's happening with our recruiting class and what we're about ready to sign in the early signing period in December. And it's a special, special recruiting class that's just the start. All right, Bo, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to open up for questions. Okay. You guys throw me some softballs. Okay. I think Coach has addressed who's going to be starting at quarterback this week, so I shouldn't have to address that. Yes, Tim?
How has the stupid tax law affected your fundraising efforts?
We raised $44.3 million, and I don't know the exact percentage, but a great percentage of that was paid in advance because of the stupid tax law, right, Scott? And we really don't know. We've got to go through a full fundraising cycle with that tax law, and we've got our donors have to go through a full tax cycle with that law to really understand what the implications are. And so Scott and his staff are doing a great job studying that. They're working with some tax consultants to really find out what the best way is to continue to raise money that it does not have a negative impact on our donors.
Do you think there may be some ways around, or some loopholes where we may still be able to write some of it off?
Yes. We'll have to cut that out of the tape. Thank you for that softball right off the bat, Tim. Yes, sir.
Do you think it'll be this year, or you're going to wait till next year to name the quarterback ball after Nolan? Right?
Yeah. You know, what I have told people is I'm not sure that, and this is not a cop-out, I'm 9 months on the job. I've talked to a lot of people about Coach Richardson and his tenure and how his tenure ended and tried to get feedback. I'm not sure 9 months in that I am the right person to decide if that should or should not happen.
Any thoughts about adding any additional sports?
Well, you know, we had a Title IX consultant that was on campus during the summer to just kind of do a kind of a checkup for us, and you know, we have to offer opportunities for student athletes in the same proportion to the enrollment of the institution, male to female. The male to female enrollment, we've got roughly 48% males to 52% females. By the letter of the law, you have to offer the same percentage of opportunities females to males for athletics. Right now we're not at that number, but we're doing some roster management to try to get to that number. Really for us right now, to add another sport just pulls resources from the sports we already have. And so I don't think it's very prudent for us to do that at this point. And so, you know, some great emerging sports out there like cycling, like sand volleyball, but right now there's not in the immediate plans for us to add any sports. Yes, sir.
You've pointed to cracking the egg with the in-state schools in terms of baseball. Is there going to be a point in time in which the Razorbacks play the Wolves over in Jonesboro?
Are they a University of Arkansas system school? Right now, that egg's just been opened to Arkansas system schools.
I want to ask about future schedules in football. I know we're Colorado State this year and next, and Notre Dame after that. Are you at liberty to mention who else we might be talking to in the future as far as like Power 5 non-conference teams to play?
I'm not going to mention specific teams. We are in conversation. I mean, the way our schedule sets up is, you know, we're going to have 8 SEC games, obviously. We want to have another Power 5 game, which is required by our conference, and then complement those with 2 probably strong group of 5 opponents that we play at home, and then an FCS opponent. That's been our scheduling model, and that's what we're continuing to work towards. I will tell you that scheduling Power 5 opponents is getting more challenging as a conference. We talk about it at our AD meetings because the majority of Power 5 conferences now have 9 conference games. So that shrinks the number of non-conference games that each of those conference schools are playing. The SEC plays 8. People have been critical of the SEC only playing 8, but you know, right now if you're putting 2 teams in a national championship using that scheduling model, why in the world are you going to change your scheduling model, correct? Somebody else had a hand up. Anybody else? Matt, you don't have any questions?
No, but you haven't got the softball one yet.
Yeah. Everybody, does everybody know Matt Zimmerman? Matt Zimmerman, stand up, Matt. Stand up. So Matt and I's first encounter was very interesting. Matt and I first met courtside at a University of Houston, Arkansas game in Houston, Texas back on December the 2nd. Well, Matt sits courtside, as many of you know. He's a radio announcer. That game didn't go well for the Razorbacks, and Matt was scowling at this gentleman that was walking back and forth the courtside, shaking hands with his donors like any good athletic director should be doing during the course of a game, especially a game where you're beating a school from the SEC. Well, this guy kept scowling at me, scowling. What is this guy's problem? Okay? So you fast forward 2 days later, that guy that Matt was scowling at is now Matt's boss at the University of Arkansas. So,
Wasn't a good start.
wasn't a good start for Matt. But so don't worry, I didn't penalize Matt too much, but I waited till the SEC tournament for my moment, and they invited me to sit courtside with the radio team, and Tony Hopkins, God bless him, couldn't count to 5. He counted to 4 and called a violation on us, and Tony's coming back down the court, and I let Tony know what I thought about his ability to count to 5, and he looked at the table, and Matt sitting next to me, I just said, that's a true story, isn't it, Matt? Yeah. So.
I always say something, but I had not said a word that time. I figured out why it was true.
I remember you saying something to Tony. That's my recollection, Matt. So, any other questions? Bo, you don't even have a question today?
Yeah, when are you going to play Arkansas State? You deserve a follow-up question.
Yeah. Are they a system school, Bo?
You already covered that.
Okay. So, any other questions, Bo? Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for your support. It's been a pleasure.